So let me feed off a little bit of what you guys each talked about. Barb mentions an addiction to the process, not trying to put words in your mouth or in your Barb, but and how that is that addiction keeps moving you forward. In those times in this, I mean, let's not, you know, you guys continue to say it, and I think it's important for everyone to understand this was hard. It was not just sitting on a couch with candles around you and getting the word, you know, given to you. It was a lot of hard work and as you guys mentioned, conflict that I can only imagine the number of times you guys said, this is just too much. I'm out of here. What was the challenge? What was the hardest thing for you guys one at a time to deal with it? Like, yes, you keep coming back for the betterment of it all, but what was the hardest struggle for you guys through this?
I think for me, I was coming out of a history of being a musician and kind of being this channel for people, but I really, without identifying it in these terms back then, I was suffering from a lot of PTSD from my life, and also I kind of have this, I wouldn't say autism, but I have a neural ability that is extraordinarily different than average people. And I was like taking my toys and going home. And so to not take my toys and go home meant I had to stay in it. And even in those times where I really didn't want to stay in it, staying in it was kind of excruciating sometimes. And yet it you know, like a good addiction, you go back and forth to where, and I think that's why through the years, we call it blowing ourselves up, where we have to go apart and take some space and get away from this intensity of what this work is. But that was in the beginning really the hardest for me. I was not, if you think about sometimes how autistic people communicate, like they're just no filter and honesty and all that, you know, not an empathetic vibe going on. And thank the angels or God and all of us that this happened, because that is not who I am anymore. But boy, that was hard in the beginning.
For me, the hardest part was the two of them fighting and being in the middle of that and being able to see both sides of the situation, both of their perspectives, and not really having an opinion of my own. But to sit at the table with them and like pick at my food or look away or whatever while they were just like, you know, early on, that was really, really, really hard.
And why did you stay at the table with them doing that? I mean, very easily, you could have just walked off. You said that was your history. You could have just walked, you guys go figure it out. When you figure it out, come back, and then we can continue on with this.
Because I think some part of me, maybe not consciously, knew that this whole thing had to be the three of us. So even if I mean, I couldn't have articulated this on those days back then, but I think I needed to be there to be a witness and to hear both of their sides. And, you know, not that I never commented or had input, but I think we just all knew that this was something big and it was important, and none of us could really pull ourselves away from it. And don't even know why, you know.
Yeah. Did it help you find a voice in the process?
Oh yeah.
And how about you, Lily? Why'd you keep coming back in these hard times?
It's so interesting to have had the two of them go first, because this all fits together so well, and we've never really been asked this exact question in this way. But yeah, we called Teresa the piece in the middle, PEAC. space in the middle, because she was the one who really, what she did was she held the space for Barbara and me to be able to hash out all these concepts by looking at our own personal stuff. Now, that was hard for her because she felt stuck in the middle, but in fact, she was just holding the space, because my answer to your question would be the hardest thing for me in the beginning was fighting with Barb, because I wanted it to be nice. I wanted everything to be nice. Can't we just be nice? And I didn't like conflict. I was the conflict avoidance queen, and I didn't like conflict. I didn't see any purpose in digging into this. Barb and I were both leaders, so we were constantly doing this. And God bless Teresa for being the thing that kept us from crashing together as hard as my knuckles are hitting, because she was kind of like the cushion in between the two of us in all those years that we had to keep fighting in order to flesh all this out. And it's great to look back on it now, because it was not great at the time. And I wanted out, I don't know how many times. The other thing, and you know this when you read the book, is Teresa and I were best friends for 10 years before we came into this. Part of what kept me there and made me be able to stay was how much I loved her. And that helped me feel safe, even though I was doing something I didn't want to do. I didn't want to fight with this woman. You know, I used to say to Barb, if it wasn't for all this spiritual work we're doing together, I don't think we would have picked each other as friends. Now, we've come to realize many years later, and because of our work, that we're glad we picked each other as friends. But we didn't know that at the time. You know, we just didn't like each other. We irritated the hell out of each other. And so it was hard work. And yet, once we had done all this work with each other, it made our lives different. It made us able to find our voices and stand for ourselves in the world with more grace and strength than any one of us had before.
You have to remember that we had only known Barb like a minute and a half when we were in deep to all this stuff, which was very strange. We didn't know her from Adam. We used to joke about she was trying to maybe get a free kitchen design from us or something, but
I thought of that when Chris said, "What was in it for you, Barb?" That was my first thought. Well, she really just wanted a free kitchen design.
Did you ever get it, Barb?
No. But I think what's so interesting as we look back is that those times when we started to fight, we weren't fighting about, well, you didn't pay for this at the da-da-da, or you said this yesterday. We were fighting about the fact that I had this vision, which the bottom line was, wait, we're God. We are God. And whatever that meant. And that fight of, no, we can't be God. Yes, we are God. How come you can't see that we're God? And, well, that's a pretty remarkable, it's still as uncomfortable as Teresa depicted it to be, but it was on such a high level of conflict. We're fighting about, are we God or aren't we? No.
Go ahead.
The thing that got me in that conversation was when Barb said, what part of you doesn't contain God? What part of you isn't God? And I was like,
yeah. Because we can't point to where our soul is. It isn't just one place. So when she said, what part of you is not God? There was no answer for that.